Welcome back to another video, and today I'll be reviewing some Glamshop makeup that I've been trying out recently. And as you see from the intro and have seen from the title, today we are reviewing some Glamshop makeup. And if you are kind of new to maybe European indie brands, Glamshop is a Polish indie brand. I discovered the brand a few years ago. There used to be a couple of years ago when I discovered the brand, I actually had quite a lot of stuff from them. I still have like older eyeshadow palettes from the brand. But then there has been like almost like an over a year gap that I haven't been ordering from them, just because the stuff that they have been launching haven't been that interesting, and also the fact that their shipping prices have gone up quite a bit. So currently if you order anything from Glamshop, at least to my country, even though it comes within the European Union, it is like over 20 euros. So it kind of takes away that, so if there's like one individual item that I want to order from them, it's no use because the shipping price is most likely going to exceed the product price. Glamshop is quite decently priced for an indie brand. Their products go from, I think, from anywhere between 5 euros to almost 30 euros, which are some of their bigger eyeshadow palettes, so they are definitely not as expensive as some of indie brands are. But just be aware that especially if you don't live within Poland or countries near Poland, I have also heard from some other European YouTubers that they have been complaining about the fact that their shipping pricing has become quite high when you consider that the product prices themselves, like a lot of their products are under the 20 euros. That's just for the shipping alone. So that has been something that has factored in. However, during the last year's Black Friday and also during December, there were a couple of things like full-on collections that I did want to order from them. I didn't order everything from the collections, but that I did order multiple items, and then we have a couple of items that are not included in either or of the two collections that I was kind of interested in during the last year. So we are going to do this as we have done all my reviews. There's going to be, I think we're going to do the lips first, then I'm going to talk about the cheek products, and then we're going to talk about the eyeshadow palettes. And with the eyeshadow palettes, you're going to be seeing 3 demo looks. One of the looks is a look that I'm currently wearing, and there's going to be swatches, and I'm also going to be including swatch images from all the other products that you will be seeing. The products mainly here are from the CREME Z FIOLETEM collection, which was their fall collection last year, and then just like a week before Christmas, I think, they launched this Crème de la Crème collection, which was a sort of neutral leading collection that has some lip products and some liquid cheek products. So those are the kind of main things, and then aside from the items from those two collections, we have a couple of like individual items that I did get. But let's now actually get to reviewing the products. So let's start with the lip products, and with lip products I have 2 of their sort of liquid lipsticks, and then I have a bullet lipstick from them, and one of these liquid lipsticks is actually from the Crème de la Crème collection, but the 2 other lip products are just from their main line. Let's talk about the liquid lipsticks first, because I'm actually wearing one of these. So I think this is a product that they originally launched, I think, was it last year or already the year before that? This has been like I said from the intro, one of those products that hasn't been worth alone enough for me to order, because these liquid lipsticks, they are like under the 20 euros. That's the shipping alone, so I'm obviously not going to be ordering a liquid lipstick that isn't even going to cost as much as the shipping. But now that I made a bigger order, then of course I made use of the opportunity and finally got to try these out. So this sort of cool tone pink is the shade that I'm currently wearing, and this red shade over here is from the Crème de la Crème collection. Within the Crème de la Crème collection, I think they had 3 or 2 like additional shade, but as I said, this is a staple line product that they have been having for some time now in their line. I'm gonna now pop in the swatch images. I did swatch the liquid lipsticks in the same image because I knew I was going to cover them in the same segment, and as you can probably see from my lips, it's a pretty typical liquid lipstick. This is one of those more comfort matte lipstick where it doesn't dry down completely, so if you take for example a sip of water, you will have a bit of color on the rim of the glass, so it's not completely like what do you call it, kiss proof or touch proof, but it's still, I have felt that it's a pretty long lasting formula. I do think that if you are wearing one of these like deeper shades, for example this red over here that goes quite deep, at least on my skin tone, then I would maybe check the liquid lipstick, for example if you have just eaten, because I did notice that after particularly eating out, this sort of more deeper shade there was some wearing off, especially from the sort like inner part of my lips, but otherwise I do think this is a pretty good liquid lipstick formula if you're someone who especially likes these new kind of more comfort matte liquid lipsticks where they don't dry down and suck all the moisture out of your lips immediately, but you still want something very long lasting. Also, I do have to say, I do like the packaging design of this. I do think it's a pretty cool design. It doesn't like, the packaging feels heavy, it doesn't feel cheap, but it's also kind of different, so it also doesn't feel kind of stock packaging that I do feel that especially with some of Glamshop's older products that it definitely felt that because they were just starting out, they didn't really do a lot of customization to their product packaging, but these actually I do think stand out, and yeah, I've been pretty happy with these ones. Then let's go to the bullet matte lipstick. So they have two types of lipsticks within this range. So they have ones that are more, I'd say, full-on matte, and then the ones that are more, not full-on matte, but like more matte satin leaning that are more opaque, and then they have similar lipsticks within the line that are more sort of like sheer and more like glossy in their finish. You're gonna be able to see in the description box all the shade names because some of these are in Polish and I'm not gonna try and pronounce them. Some of these are in English. It's a bit confusing how Glamshop does their naming, but I'm just gonna show this one, and now I'm actually gonna pop in also the swatch so you can kind of see the finish. So this is the one where I chose the variation that had the more opaque formula, and I do have to say that even though the bullet kind of maybe looks that it's more matte leaning, but this I felt was more like a traditional satin lipstick formula, so it's not actually like super drying, even though the kind of bullet and maybe even the swatch might kind of make it look that is it this kind of more drying bullet matte lipstick, but I would say that this is truly more of a satin lipstick. I do like the shade. It was a nice sort of rosy warm tone shade on my lips. I do think this might be kinda Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk-esque kind of shade, except I do think this might be a bit deeper. I've actually tried the original Pillow Talk. For me, the Pillow Talk turns very warm leaning, even though it's called described as cool toned rose. I do think that this is pretty similar case with this one, that in maybe with a different kind of skin undertone, this probably it would be more cool leaning, but at least for me this was a very warm sort of rosy pink kind of shade. But I do like this, and I do think this was again a very comfortable formula to wear. Is this obviously going to be something that will wear off you the minute you will drink or eat something? Obviously it's a traditional cream bullet lipstick still at the end of the day, but I do say that if you have been looking this more like a satin leaning opaque bullet lipstick formula, I would maybe go for these. And I do actually like this packaging. I used to own one of their older lipsticks, and that was the packaging. It was kinda, when I said already with the liquid lipstick, some of the original Glamshop products had this issue that the packaging felt that because they had to try maybe like at the beginning cut cost somewhere, the packaging wasn't like that much, didn't put that much effort into it, but I do feel that this is already like much more better compared to the original bullets they used in their lipstick. It was basically like a white bullet that had maybe some individual stars or something on top of the packaging. It didn't look very refined, but I do have to say that this kind of packaging is already like much more refined. But I do think at the end of the day, I do have to say the lip products, at least for me, were a hit, and if you have been wondering of buying any of these lip formulas from Glamshop, at least I would recommend them. So let's next go to the sort of cheek products, and 3 of these are from the Z FIOLETEM collection, and then 2 of these are just from their main line. Let's first go to the product that I'm currently wearing. So, and actually, sorry, one of the lip products actually goes with the CREME de la CREME collection, so actually we have only one product that goes from their baseline. So within the CREME de la CREME collection, they had these liquid blushes, and it was just that I had pushed the order button that I realized that I went again to their website and I realized that crap, all these liquid blushes within the CREME de la CREME collection, these are the sort of very glowy blushes. I'm gonna show this closer to the camera so you might get an idea. You can probably see that there's like clear sparkles within this formula. So we all know that my preference is more to the like, I can deal with a satin blush. I do think that's quite nice, but I am a person who actually prefers like having rather matte blushes. I'm gonna turn around so you can kind of maybe see how this is looking. It's not actually, I will have to say, not as glowy as I was afraid it was going to be. However, if you do like a super glowy and sparkly blush, then maybe this isn't what you're looking for, because I do think some of the sparkles kind of dissipate once you start blending this out. I'm still gonna put a hand swatch of this one to the side so you can kind of like see how it looks on my hand, but some of the shimmer definitely goes away, and especially I did feel that when I was wearing this during my normal work day, after the sort of like when I put my makeup around 7 or 8 o'clock during the morning, and then when I checked myself in the mirror at the evening before I was washing my makeup around 9 o'clock, I did actually notice that it was more looking like that I had a rather satin blush on my cheek rather than a glowy blush. So I think if you're buying these thinking you're gonna get something super sparkly that's gonna last through the whole day, I think that you're gonna have to be prepared that the sort of shine of this one, for some reason, it goes away, especially if you wear this a long time. I don't mind it, I actually think it was very pleasant looking. The pigment doesn't go away, so it's not the issue that you're not gonna have any blush on your cheek at the end of the day. Just be aware that the shimmers kind of go away during the daytime. But I actually did like the finish of it before I washed off my makeup, because as I said, I'm one who prefers maybe the blushes that go more towards the sort of satin and matte side of things. So I think this might be a good in-between product, that if you want maybe like a bit of like shimmer to your blush, but you don't want this like super sparkly blushes that have been pretty trendy. So this could be maybe a good in-between product to try. I do like this shade. I'm gonna see that was this shade of this one in English, or was it in... okay, this is in Polish. I'm not gonna try to pronounce that, but I'm gonna be again putting in the description box the full name on the description box. So if you're interested in this one, I do think that even though this was a part of a collection, all of these blushes are available. I think again they had 3 different shade variations, or 4 maybe, of these like glowy liquid blushes. They have come out with liquid blushes also in their staple line. However, those ones were, I think, more kind of blushes that actually dried down matte. I didn't see that those had like sparkles compared to these ones, but if you have tried this formula from Glamshop before and you want something that has a bit more shine to it, then maybe try one of these Creme collection blushes. Then let's go to the cheek products of the Z Fioletem collection, and I actually ended up like getting almost all of them except the highlighter, because the highlighter was one of those icy sparkly highlighters that Glamshop for some reason likes to do. I have said many times that those kind of highlighters are no longer flattering on my particular skin type, because I'm already someone in my 30s, so I skipped the highlighter, but I did get one of the contour shades and both of the blushes. So let's first discuss maybe the blushes, and again I'm gonna put the blush swatches in one single image. So within the Z Fioletem collection there were 2 blushes. These have the English name on the back, so Blush Floral and Blush Rose. So we're talking about these 2, and I'm gonna now open them up so you can first kind of just see how they're looking. The packaging of this is a bit stiff. I will have to say that opening this up has been a bit of a hassle. Gonna show these close up again so you can kind of see. One of them is a bit deeper shade and one of them is a how should I say, one of them is a more like rose leaning shade and maybe one of them is a pink leaning shade. And these and the contour shade that I'm gonna show after this one are both sort of cream to powder formula. I do think this is a new formula for Glamshop, and now I'm actually gonna pop in the swatch image and I do have to say that this, because Glamshop has been one of those brands that previously, at least their traditional powder blushes, they definitely had a bit of the, I'm not gonna call it an issue because some people like their blush formulas, but it was definitely one of those blush formulas that it was quite powdery and you got a lot of pigment immediately on the go, and not necessarily all the shades were that blendable, because I can do with a good pigmented blush if I know that the formula is something that you can blend out. These are definitely different, so and you can kind of already feel it when you touch the pans, and also just in the way that when you pick these on the brush, it's a more what I would call a buildable blush formula, even though both of these shades look very deep. When I got these and I opened the package and saw the shades, I was like thinking that, dang, those look very deep, let's see how this is gonna go. But because it's a cream to powder formula and it's a more buildable formula, to use. It's actually, I didn't feel at any point when I was testing these out that I was having like too much pigment on my cheek. It was actually pretty like a pleasant formula to work with. Is this best the cream powder to formula that I've tried? I had to like go back and think that, and I think that I have tried. Has Natasha Denona done cream to powder formulas within her blushes? This is a bit difficult because I'm a bit unsure now. I have tried blushes that claim to be cream to powder formula, but I can't like now think about a formula comparison for these ones. But I think that if you're someone who has a fair skin tone and you were eyeing these, but you were afraid based on the image on the website that these are going to be too pigmented on the go, I would maybe still give these a go if the shades are appealing to you, because I do think that it's a more buildable formula, and it's a formula that gives you more leeway with working with it. But you can definitely, like if you have someone who has deeper skin tone than I do, you can still build these quite a lot. Like if you want to get a super pigmented look, then it's definitely a possibility. So for me, I'm actually a bit curious to see that what they are going to be doing with these in the future. Are they going to bring out more products, for example, to their staple line with this formula? Because I do think this is a formula like it did need maybe like a bit of work to get to look even. It was a bit funny because I wouldn't call it the finish was like it was patchy, but I did feel that maybe like getting this to look even on your cheek, it somehow required a bit of work. So I think this is a formula that they could maybe work on a bit more, but I wouldn't call it a bad formula. And as I said, I was pretty happy that it was actually more of a buildable formula rather than this very pigmented on the go formula that would have been like hard to blend out. So pretty, again, okay, like I'd say this was a very okay formula, but it's definitely not like the best blush formula that I have ever tried. Then the contour shade, this is how it's looking. I'm gonna actually now put it close to the screen again so you can kind of see. And this is they had two contour shades within the Z Violetem line, so this is the fairest one. I think this is called the chocolate was the fairest shade, and then they did have a deeper shade. Again, this looks very deep on the pan. I do say that the contour shade, it does have maybe a bit more impact to it when you get it on your brush compared to the blushes. So it's not as buildable as the blushes, but it's still not something that I had, because when I again opened my package and I saw the shade, I was looking that, okay, the bronzer shade is looking a lot deeper than what it looked online on the image. But again, this wasn't something that was like too like pigmented to a point that it would look like I have just dark streaks on my cheeks. So I'm gonna now show the swatch, and I think with the swatch what I'm gonna do for this video is actually that I'm gonna do two swatches, that one has the shade blended out and one has just a swatch stripe, so you can kind of maybe see the difference. This is a very, like, I've always appreciated Glamshop's contour shades because they do cool toned, they actually do cool tone shades. Not all brands do cool tone shades. Like some brands do just warm and maybe neutral shades. So in terms of shade match, this was actually a pretty good product. It was a bit more pigmented, as I said, compared to the blushes, but I actually like the finish of this one. I felt that working with this one was, despite maybe having a bit more pigment than the blushes, was actually pretty nice. And if you have been curious to try one of these contour shades out, then this would be maybe something that you could throw in your cart. These weren't expensive, like the blushes and the contour shades within the Z Violetem line, they were like a bit over €5 or something, so it's also like not the most expensive of the products within the line. So overall, I do think that this cream to powder formula, I do think they're all to something, but maybe with the blushes it needs a bit more work. With the contour, I felt that even though it had a bit more pigment, it was still like a bit more maybe easier to work with, which was kind of good. But always nice to see when brands do like experiment with new formulas. Then the last of the cheek products, so this is something from their main line. This is called MIGOT, so this is one of their highlighters. I am gonna show it. So as I said, I didn't want to get, for example, one of the Z Violetem highlighters because it was this like very icy looking sparkly highlighter, but then I remembered that I had seen that they had launched these like bigger individual highlighters in this sort of square packaging, and this formula looked much smoother compared to some of their other highlighter formulas. I'm gonna pop in the swatch, and from the swatch you can see I didn't put the highlighter today because I have a glowier blush already, so I don't think the highlighter would have stood out with the blush that I have currently. But I do like this highlighter formula for a lot. I do think that if you're especially someone who has a more mature skin, you're gonna be enjoying this particular highlighter formula, because this is definitely one of those smooth formulas that's gonna give you a more, I'd say, it's a more subtle sheen on your cheekbones rather than having this like super pigmented, or like not super pigmented but super sparkly, something that might emphasize textures that you have. So for example, as someone like me who for someone with my skin type, I enjoyed this much more, maybe rather compared to some of the older Glamshop highlighters that I have had in my collection. I have like decluttered all the older highlighters that I have from Glamshop some time ago, because a lot of them were the kind of formula that I wasn't enjoying anymore. So if you are looking for something like that gives you a sheen that suits different like, or maybe more mature skin types, or if you just have a lot of texture on your cheekbones, I would look into these sort of highlighters that are in the sort of like bigger square pans. If you are looking for something that's gonna give you like, I do feel that this had a limit how much you could build it. So if you are thinking it's gonna give you the sort of wet effect maybe than some of the like maybe Rare Beauty baked highlighters give, then this isn't really the formula for you, because I do feel that while it gave a very nice subtle sheen on your cheeks, you really weren't able to get this sort of very blinding wet effect that some of these smoother highlighters can give you. So there is a limit to how much you can like build this one up, but for me and for my highlighter preferences, this was a very good find from the website, and something that I would recommend. So lastly, we're gonna be doing eyeshadow palettes, and I have both of the palettes from the Z Fioletem collection and from the Creme de la Creme collection. So I think I'm gonna be starting out with the Creme de la Creme collection palette, because one of the looks that you're gonna be seeing later on the side is actually the look I'm currently wearing today, so it was the third look for this particular palette. So this is how the Creme de la Creme palette is looking from the outside. I will already say, and I do think I discussed this on my sort of haul video where I discussed like products that I got during last year's December and November, that I feel that the Z Fioletem collection palette design was much more refined compared to this one. This maybe reminds me a bit of the older Glamshop palette design, where I say that the design was okay, but it still feels kind of bit that it could use some work. But that's just my individual preferences. There's nothing wrong in the packaging per se. It feels very sturdy. It certainly doesn't feel like some of the very cheap cardboard palette packaging that we see from maybe some other like brands within this price point. But it's just that the palette design could maybe use some work. Both of these palettes are at normal price are around 30 euros, because these are their bigger palettes. However, Glamshop does run sales regularly, so I would always recommend maybe wait for a sale before getting one of these. So this is how the palette's looking inside. And as you can see, this is a very neutral palette, and Glamshop is notorious known for recycling shades in between their palettes. But I do feel like maybe with this one, because they have had neutral palettes within their line before, I have actually, within my collection, that is one of my favorite neutral all matte palettes, and that's saying something because I usually don't collect all matte palettes into my drawers, but it's one of their older palettes, and what I especially liked about that neutral palette is that it has matte neutral tones that I don't have in any other palettes, and for some insane reason, considering how much neutral eyeshadow I have, this palette kind of succeeds in what the other neutral palette that I have from them does, is that some of these, especially the sort of matte tones that this have, they have a bit of kind of different undertones compared to some other neutral browns that I have. And as I said, it's ridiculous because I have so many, I have like quite a lot of neutral eyeshadows, so yeah, so I don't feel that this is sort of recycling, or that I'm getting like repeat shades from shades that I have from them before. So I do think that's quite an achievement, because as I said, the brand is known for sometimes recycling color stories. Something I will have to say about the like overall how this is built, like the palette color story is built up. I do think they have succeeded in quite well in the fact that there is a bit of warmth in here, you have cool tone shades here, and you have shades from light to deep. So I do think that overall this is a very well designed color story, where for a neutral palette you do get some options. Now I'm gonna pop in the swatches and all three looks, and as you can see from the looks, it's a neutral palette, like obviously. From the shimmers, compared to the Z Fioletem palette that I'm gonna be showing before, Glamshop in their past palettes used to do what a lot of these indie brands used to do when they started out. They had some of these bit more chunkier shimmers that, yes, were impactful, but didn't necessarily suit all lid types. Some of them could crease during the daytime, and some of them, if you had sensitive eyes, people couldn't wear them because they caused tearing, or they just were a bit harder to work with. And I definitely have to say that this shimmer formula is very different from the shimmer formula I've tried from the brand before. A lot of these shimmers, I would say, are closer to the satin, like satin shimmers, and especially comparing to the Z Fioletem palette that I'm gonna show later. Even though that has also pretty smooth shimmer formulas all around, I feel that those shimmer formulas do have much more still like sparkle compared to this one. So I think this is a palette for those people who would prefer like almost these satin-like shimmers. The shimmers almost do feel, I was kind of thinking that because it's called Creme de la Creme collection, that did they put some kind of new eyeshadow formula in this one, because especially the sort of satiny shimmer shade that this has, they do feel rather more like cream shimmers rather than these traditional like shimmer eyeshadows that, for example, the other like Z Fioletem palette has. But I'm unsure. I didn't like at least see a spot when I sort of read the palette description that they say specifically that they have like cream eyeshadows in this one. But the shimmer formula, it's a more satin-like formula, but it's very easy to work with, and it's definitely going to suit that if you have more mature lids or just lids that have a lot of texture, then I do think this is a formula that you will enjoy. Something I'm gonna give credit for this one and the palette we're gonna be talking afterwards is Glamshop used to have very powdery mattes. They were still very nice to work with, they were very pigmented, you got beautiful looks with them. But they no longer have powdery mattes, and that's a good thing in this case. So it's still a very good matte formula where it's blendable, it packs like you can build it, you can get a very pigmented look if you want. A lot of the looks that I made with this one were more on the subtle side, but for example, in this look that you're seeing today and one of the photos, I did want to try her out a bit with try the deeper shades. But overall, the matte formula, you can kind of, it's improved, but you can still do a lot of things with the matte formula. I do think that this is like a good in-between neutral palette for someone who's looking for maybe some warm tones and some like neutral tones, and maybe some warm tone, like then cool tone shades mixed together. So for that kind of person, this actually could be a very nice palette. And it's definitely very everyday friendly if you just want something quick and easy to your office or your workplace has a very strict kind of code what kind of makeup you can wear. I do think this would suit quite well, and because you still have depth with this one, you can actually also do a more glam party look. So overall, I do feel, even though I have a lot of neutral palettes, and even though maybe I would personally would have preferred the shimmers to have more sparkle, I still do think overall that I do actually like this palette, and I will be keeping it brown. Then let's go to the Z Fioletem palette. So I do think this was the best palette that they came out with last year. The package design and how they did the campaign photos for this particular collection were like, I have never seen that kind of quality just based on marketing materials and design from Glamshop before, and I would hope that they would maybe in the future also put the same effort that they put into this collection altogether to the rest of their collections. So this was definitely a fall release when you also look at the color story. This came out pretty close to the Natasha Denona's Roxa palette, and I do remember saying in my makeup news video that I was actually recommending that if you wanted purple but you also wanted something neutral and maybe something else than just purple and pink linen shades, I actually said that maybe look into this one. Also, this is like fraction of the price because these go around 30 euros. The Roxa palette is, I think, 70 euros or something. So so that is why I wanted to bring out that maybe if you especially live in Europe, maybe look into this one if you want some elements of purple makeup but don't want a full-on purple palette. So I'm gonna pop in now the swatches and the looks. I do like, definitely compared to the Creme de la Creme palette, this offers much more variety. I do think again they did quite well with the color story because it has like, you have the, I'm gonna like actually show this now at the same time. because in the middle you can kind of see you do have a row of basically almost all the shades are purple except for the one brown out here. They are a bit kind of different purples. There's like one iridescent shade that's on this side. There's a matte, and then you have like a shimmer shade, but basically you do have like shades here to create purple looks, and one of the looks you were seeing is I also did try out and did actually create a purple look. But then you do have kind of other shades in the palette where you have, for example, the pop of yellow that I wore as a base shade in one of the looks, and then you have the option if you want to go on a full neutral look, you obviously have that option also in this palette. Something maybe that I would have maybe wanted to have in this palette more is that we truly have like only two like base shades like you can work with. So either you're gonna be starting with this brown over here or then this yellow over here. I do know that maybe for some people the yellow can be a bit too poppy as a base shade, and maybe I would have wished, especially since I believe the Z Fioletem means in Polish that it kind of means that purple or something related to purple when I put it into Google Translator. So for a purple palette, I maybe would have wished they would have replaced one of the, maybe one of the brown shades in this one. They would have put it a pastel, maybe periwinkle leaning purple, because the purples in this one are definitely more like blue leaning ones, or then maybe some kind of other, if not periwinkle purple, then maybe a more what I would maybe call like a pink leaning purple, but a paler purple shades. I think you could maybe I'm thinking that you could maybe use this one over here. This is a iridescent shimmer shade, but this is a very satin, it's a very satin kind of shade, so you could technically try to use that as a base shade if you wanted, but I do know that there are also people who don't want to use their shimmers as base shades, so yeah, that's like the only thing I think they could have improved with this palette. I had a lot of fun with this one, and I do that, like, considering that this was a fall collection, I do think that in one way this encompassed a lot of things about fall, because we did have some neutrals, but we also had some like warmer shades within this one. There was like a deeper leafy green in this one, and I do kind of think that because the purple tones are a bit deeper in this one, it kind of fits with the fall vibes of this one. I do have to say that just for the versatility, this was definitely like my favorite palette from the two, and also, as I said already when discussing the Creme de la Creme palette, even though this has the kind of smoother shimmer formula, even the sparklier shimmers here are very smooth to work with comparing some of the other shades that I have tried on Glamshop's older palettes. But the shimmers in this one generally just have a bit more, it has the like sparkle that I still want my shimmer shades to have, so that is also why this sort of goes over with from the Creme de la Creme palette. But as I already said, the Creme de la Creme palette is also a good palette for different kind of like purposes that I use eyeshadow palettes for in my collection. But overall, generally I would say when talking about both of these palettes, I am happy to say that overall I do feel that Glamshop has been improving the eyeshadow quality. It's perhaps a good thing that I took maybe like a year break from the brand, because I do feel that overall like the matte and shimmer formulas are now a bit more refined, and as I said, the mattes are less fallouty now. There isn't that much fallout as there used to be. With some individual shades there can be still, for example, the black that I used from this palette to create today's look, that had a bit more fallout, but generally it's a bit like better matte formula, and also the shimmers are no longer these very chunky shimmers that are hard to work with, emphasize texture. There is now then bit variation that do you want a more sparklier shimmers or do you want more satin kind of shimmers, but overall these palettes were a very positive experience, and I'm excited to see what kind of collections they come out during this year. The Valentine's collection wasn't that impressive because it had these sort of quads, and I've never been a fan of buying the sort of like individual quads, except for maybe some individual exceptions with some luxury brands. So I am waiting for their next big collection when they're gonna be doing another big palette. Overall, I do think this was quite of a successful sort of haul from the brand, and sort of like a tryout of different kind of things. I do have to say, like, maybe what were my favorites, the eyeshadow palettes, these definitely will be having a place in my collection. Very excited to see what they'll be doing in the future with these big palettes. And I do think from the lip products, I do have to say the liquid lipsticks especially, I do think that just the, like, for considering that these aren't most expensive liquid lipsticks that you're gonna find, I do think that the packaging design of these are nice, and it's a very nice sort of these moussey liquid lipstick formula that will stay on put even though it doesn't dry down completely. And I have to say that if you live in Europe and you're looking for a good indie brand that offers all, because a lot of the indie brands only do eyeshadow palettes or they do like powder products, but Glamshop is one of the few indie brands that they actually do a full face. You can get also foundation and concealer from them, but because Glamshop caters more towards olive undertone skin tones, a lot of their foundation and concealers, they wouldn't suit me because I have a cool rosy undertone. But if you have, for example, a light to fair to medium olive skin tone, then I would also recommend trying out their sort of foundation and concealer products. I have tried one of their foundation in the past. I did use a bit of a mixer with it to get it to suit, and I do think the foundation, it looked pretty nice. So I do know that the base products also are very good with them, just have to check with them that do they fit your like individual skin undertone. Comment down below, have you tried Glamshop before, or have you been trying any other European indie brands, and what did you think about the products? If you liked this video, push the like button, subscribe to the channel and ring the bell button if you want to get notifications from future content. You can also find me with the same makeup hedgehog on Instagram. I hope you can see you soon in a video. Bye bye!